Hi, I'm PaulaG, and I'm known as the Intuitive Intelligence Coach, and I help people discover the work they're most meant to do in the world and then get about successfully creating that in a way that really allows you to be a leader in your own life. And so I'm excited to be here today.
Well, we really appreciate you coming down to the Washington area this way, virtually. And so I know you to be a woman who's both decisive and passionate about her desire to make a difference in this world. And that's what our conference is all about. Tell us a little about your background and how you came to venture out and create your coaching company when you had such a nice, comfortable career with a big corporation.
Yeah, I worked for corporate America for a little over 17 years, and I worked in several different companies, really well-known companies, well-respected companies, in a variety of different disciplines. I came out of school with a degree in accounting, so I spent time in auditing and accounting and finance, and then I made a career transition to the IT field at the time that the internet was really just coming into fruition in the mid-90s. And so then the rest of my career was spent around IT and marketing support and data and how data and all those kinds of things fuel a business. But common throughout all those changes was that I never really felt like I fit in. I frankly thought there had to be something wrong with me, fundamentally wrong with me, because while I was very successful on the outside and I did great work, that was never an issue, I just felt like I was dying on the vine. And so after a lot of soul searching, and again, I tried some traditional career moves, let's go here, let's go there, let's change departments, change companies, but that same feeling of there has to be something more was always inside of me. And so in the early 2000s, I discovered shadow work that Debbie Ford does in her book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, and that really became a huge catalyst for me personally and professionally. Because for the first time I got out of my head and I got in touch with my heart. What a novel concept, right? Because we live so much out of our heads trying to do the right thing and follow our path, that for me that was a huge revelation. A lot of healing and personal acceptance. And that really fueled the change for me towards a different career, towards entrepreneurism. I can remember in 2003, while I was out being trained as a coach by Debbie, standing in this beautiful, beautiful spot in San Diego Harbor next to one of my participants, and I realized, one of the other fellow participants, and I realized I was in a room where the majority of the people earned their living by owning their own business in one way, shape, or form. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's another way to earn a living? It sounds naive and dumb, right? There's another way to earn a living besides sitting in a corporate cubicle and doing that kind of work. But it was like the heavens opened for me, because because I never saw that as a model in my life. I realized that, there may be something here for me to explore, and that became the next step in my journey.
Amazing. You know, it's funny, just recently at another opportunity I had talking to somebody, part of the teaching was the fact you can actually enjoy your career, enjoy your job. And she was blown away. And more than one person at the same group said, well, I never believed you could do that either. And it was like, you should find such a thing. So how were you able to take what most of us would see as a setback, instead make it a personal choice that turned into an opportunity? Tell us how your personal values played into this career change and where that is taking you till now.
Yeah. Well, one of my key personal values, I'd say really my core value in terms of my authenticity and how I want to live my life, is about living it fully, because we get one precious life here, and it is indeed precious. So how can I live it fully? How can I be the best me I can be? And so while that transformation put the idea in my head that I wanted to own my own business, there was still a big road ahead of me to determine, all right, how am I going to make this happen? So I was working on that part-time while I was still working full-time, and I just couldn't quite seem to get over that hump or be able to get over that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm going to take the leap and go full-time in my own business. And one of my favorite stories, and to me it's a really big illustration of what I teach today in intuitive intelligence, because I was away on vacation in 2007 in one of my favorite parts of Maine, and really just doing some soul searching and wanting to surrender to how can I make this happen? If this is the sign I'm getting and the feeling, and this is aligned with who I am and my values of wanting to be a catalyst for change in the world, for wanting to help people live their best lives, how am I going to make this happen? And so I was journaling, and out of nowhere, it was one of those writer's miracle moments where you just get this download from the heavens, and just wrote in my journal, and it sounded just so beautiful. And it had to do with trust and with taking a risk. So I'm like, okay, we'll see where this leads. Within 2 days of returning from that vacation, I was laid off in a corporate reorganization that had no reduction in headcount. So it was very serendipitous that I lost my job. But I knew in that minute, that moment, I knew that it would be the best thing that ever happened to me. So I didn't know the how. Yes, I was fearful. Yes, I had lots of emotions going on. But I knew that this was really part of the plan, really part of what I was meant to do. So that value I had around adventure and seeing life as an adventure, it was given to me on a plate. So it was my opportunity to take personal responsibility to create what I most wanted to create.
That's great. I mean, so many people see things like that as devastation. They can't get through the closed door just by opening it. You, in turn, looked at it, as your coaching often teaches people, as an opportunity. And so your current coaching focus is on something called intuitive intelligence. What is that, and how did you discover it in your own life experience?
Yeah. Well, intuitive intelligence is fundamentally about getting out of the mental gymnastics that we often go through, and our mind, those tapes and voices that play in our head that keep us stuck, and being able to harness the good power of our intelligence and our mind and our skilled use of reason with something even more powerful, our intuition. Because that's innate to us, but we tend to ignore it. We tend to push it down because it's not as accepted. And it can be a little scary too, because being intuitive, having intuition, which we all have, which you have, it's a spiritual birthright. It comes with you when you're born. It doesn't always make sense. So it's about a gut knowing. It's about really knowing and feeling that in your body, and it doesn't always make rational sense. So it can be really frightening to us. And so what I do in my work is I help people get in touch and balance those parts of themselves so that you can get exponentially better results, easier decisions, wiser decision making. And so examples of how I arrived at that is that I noticed, and being a little resistant, it took me a while to notice this, but as I looked back over time, I realized that the most pivotal and meaningful choices I've made in my life were always ones that were made out of love and out of faith and out of an intuitive knowing versus a whole lot of pros and cons lists and trying to work it through in my head. In fact, in my work, I often call logic a four-letter word because we try to logically figure it all out, and we forget the magic and the mystery that is part of living, part of what it means to be a leader, part of what it means to be to innovate in our own lives and create this experience.
So intuitive intelligence then is something that everyone has within themselves, but too few turn into to tap its empowering potential in achieving their own human potential. Tell us more about how you can tune into it and thus grow stronger in your own potential.
Yeah. So at first it feels very unnatural. At least it did for me. There's some people out there where tuning into their intuition is second nature, and sometimes they have the opposite problem, actually grounding it into practical action. So I help people do both, but what I find is most of the time, more common to people is the opposite. So stuck in our heads, we can't get in touch with our intuition, what we really want, what we really, really know. So how you can start doing that right away is to first just give yourself permission to go there. Because it can feel unnatural, uncomfortable, and scary. But right now, just think for yourself. Have you ever had a gut reaction? Just a gut knowing that something was right or something needed to happen. It could be for a big choice in your life, or it could be something as small as, a gut choice of where you should go on vacation this year. But you had that sense in your body, even though it didn't make great rational sense. So we've all had that, and I'm sure you can think of one now. So the practice becomes getting yourself into a habit where you can start listening to the wisdom that's already inside of you, rather than being distracted by all the noise in our minds and all the noise in our lives, right? Because we're so busy and there's so much happening and it's 24/7 and we're connected by technology all the time. That doesn't make technology bad. After all, look how great this technology is, allowing me to be with you here today. However, we need time for reflection. So how might you work in some time to just be quiet, to just listen and start noticing, how does my body feel around this choice? What kind of guidance am I receiving? And notice, because guidance will come to you maybe in a feeling, maybe in a sense, maybe in an insight. And these little whispers that we receive, the key is to start listening to them and honoring the little ones. Because ultimately, our intuition, our wisdom is here to guide us towards our highest potential. And if we don't listen, it can be dangerous, because eventually wisdom's going to speak to us and it'll start whacking us with a 2x4 with bigger challenges that we might not want because we were ignoring the subtle signs to begin with. So it starts with tuning in and giving yourself permission to do so.
At this Trio Leadership Summit, we have strong leaders from around the country, each with their own cause and passion for making a difference in this world, especially since most have been given a second chance at life through the gift of an anonymous organ donation. What challenges can you offer them now that they have some understanding of this hidden intuitive intelligence to grow that and use it in making their own passion-driven change in this world?
Well, the first piece is that, first, hooray for you, because you've got a passion and a connection to that. So many people wander through their lives. There's a great quote by Tom Rath, who wrote Well-Being, is that so many people go from the cradle to the cubicle to the casket without ever discovering their passion and their connection. So what I would invite you to do is to really get in touch with and strengthen your big why. Like, why are you here? And for you particularly, like Jim shared, you've already seen the gift and the preciousness of life in a way that many people do not. So what is your big why, and why are you here on the planet, and what do you have to give? And what do you want to make? What do you want to leave as your legacy? And the legacy word can scare a lot of people because they feel like, well, I'm not a Gandhi or a Mother Teresa. But you have a legacy because you touch people every day by who you are and what you do personally and professionally. So I'd say really get in touch with your why and what you really want to create in your life. And then start making wiser choices by listening to your intuition and by choosing from love versus fear. Because we can be so fear-driven, especially in tough economic times or in challenging circumstances. So to really, when you get grounded and understand your why and your values, then that becomes your compass for making decisions. And it makes it so much easier for you to have the courage, because it does take courage to live authentically. I'm not here to tell you it's a cakewalk, but the rewards are so worth it, because otherwise it's a half-lived life.
So if somebody wanted to know more about this topic that we've only barely touched on here, how can they get help and find out more?
Yeah, so the best place you can get more is actually two places. First off, I've written a report, an extended report on this topic called Your Own Uniqueness, The Path to Purpose, Prosperity, and Playfulness, which you can get at www.intuitiveintelligencecoaching.com. And that's a free report, and I highly recommend that you download that. Another place for free resources would be my main website, where I've got plenty of videos and audios and articles, all kinds of things to keep you inspired and on the path and further the conversation we've had today. And that is at www.ThePaulaGCompany.com.
Paula, this has been so great to be able to bring this whole conference right into your home here like this and to share what is such an exciting concept. And I hope that our members here in Washington, Northern Virginia, can really appreciate, one, the gift you've just given us, and secondly, the unique gift we all have within ourselves, this intuitive intelligence, and can take it to add to their own passionate drive for whatever it is they're doing in this world to make it a better world. As you said, in faith and also belief in love in themselves. So thank you very much for joining us down here, and we will have some materials for the people as we continue this discussion. Paula, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Hi, I'm Paula Gregorovich, the Intuitive Intelligence Coach again. And first I just want to really thank you for taking the time to watch the video that Jim Gleason and I did together. And I really hope you found it inspiring and that it's really piqued your interest in becoming more of a leader in your own life and just the power of what you can do when you align who you are with the actions that you take in the world. And so I'm here to just talk to you a little bit about the handout that Jim has handed out to you. And this is about taking home what you learned from that brief video and applying it directly to your life. So I just want to walk you through this very quickly. Obviously we start with an inspiring quote and then move into an inner inquiry. Because intuitive intelligence is really about balancing inner inquiry with outer action. And so the first question is, what do you really want and why do you want it? So I invite you to really take some time away from computers, technology, and what have you, so that you can really be present with yourself, with your heart, and just give yourself the gift of journaling about this. This may be the first time you've ever asked yourself these questions, so just really be kind to yourself and allow the answers to come. The next inner inquiry is about your role in bringing this about. So what is the sweet spot for the work you're most meant to do in the world? And you'll see the chart above it giving you a little more information on your sweet spot or your it. And so these are ways that you can determine how you can become a better leader in your own life right now. It's not about jumping ship, changing jobs as soon as you go home or any of that, but it's about how do you start embodying this, taking it out of an intellectual understanding and into your everyday life right away. Then we move into intuitive intelligence and really giving you a visual more about what I talked about the intuition plus the intelligence and where the wise decisions come in. And so the inner inquiry I ask you to do around this is, what kind of experience do you most want to have as you go through your lifetime? What are the qualities of being you most want to embody? Because it's not so much what we spend our lives doing, but who we get to be, what kind of experiences we have. That's really what builds our life. So I invite you to really take time with that. Give yourself the gift of quiet reflection